Hello, everybody. We want to thank you for signing on to the Empowering Pastors, Leaders, and Training. We just love not only the pastors and the staff members, but also we're excited that we have marketplace ministers on today. And we just want to say, and some people say, what's a marketplace minister? Those are the ministers that they're called to work regular jobs, but they're as much of ministers. They just have a different kind of pulpit than we have. Some people's pulpits are hammers. Some people's pulpits are energy. Some people's pulpits are insurance. Some people's pulpits are, I mean, there's every kind of pulpit you can imagine. But we all have great influence and great opportunity, and we must be great leaders because we are God's sons and God's daughters leading people in this planet to know the kingdom. So I wanted to show you some books real quickly, pastors that are online. And maybe you're just online but have not yet purchased these. We have made Rock Solid Faith into 4 booklets. And what is Rock Solid Faith? This is a biblical training principle that we have literally everyone at His Tabernacle go through. It is a phenomenal course. Rock Solid Faith 1 deals with theology. Rock Solid Faith book 2 deals with spiritual growth. Rock Solid Faith book 3 deals with foundations. Rock Solid Faith book 4 deals with spiritual gifts. So pastors, we have, I'm really honored. My bishop actually just picked this up and is now teaching it at his church as their foundational, as well as we have pastors from all over the United States doing that as well. I was just so blessed when my bishop picked it up. What a phenomenal honor. And so I would encourage you to pick up your copies. You can get them, you can get a hold of us right on our website, empoweringpastors.com. We can either drop ship some to you, sell them to you right from here, or you can go to Amazon and buy them from there. But I would encourage you to, these are great. We have some churches doing this as a regular class. At His Tabernacle, we teach it 4 times in 1 week. So what happens is we have 4 classes. We have a Tuesday night class, a Wednesday morning class for those who work overnights. We have a Thursday night at 6 class, and also a Thursday night at 6 in Ithaca, our other campus. So we're teaching it all the campuses, as well as 4 different times. We're all in the same chapter, so that way if somebody misses one, they can jump on, or they're on the archives. But we also have pastors doing this for their small groups, and we know that they'll be challenged. Now, what I love about these books is that when they're done, these books, they should all be workers. And so we produce a mass amount of workers at His Tabernacle, comparatively, and it is exciting to see how many people put their hand to the plow. But this class really is the success of His Tabernacle Family Church because they're workers when they get out. So I'd encourage you, pastors, you can buy them, grow with them, and I know that you'll be blessed by them. Very good. Today I want to apologize also for not being here last week. It was supposed to be here last week, but our airplane the night before got canceled in Chicago. And we had to spend the night. Then they shipped us off to Detroit. And then the airplane from Detroit to Elmira got canceled. They actually both planes, they grounded them. I was kind of very happy that they did that, because I'd hate to be at a 767 on the way to Newark and have it go down. That's a long way down, by the way. And then the plane from Elmira, from Detroit to Elmira was canceled. You know, they took the plane right off, I guess, maintenance. So I just thank God I'm here. I want to thank Pastor Cody for doing class last week. So I want to pick up where I was planning on being last week, and that's called credibility. Leadership begins with you and your belief in yourself. One of the principles I've truly, honestly learned, and it was one of the harder things that I learned, was that I actually had to believe that I belonged at the table. That I actually had to believe that, truthfully, God called me to be a leader. God put me in this position. Man didn't put me in this position. God put me in this position. When you can really, in your own self, validate who you are, then you know you have the right to have a voice. Come on, you've been in a situation before where you've been around individuals and you just didn't say a word because you didn't think that your voice had any impact or you had no place to speak. And let's be honest, there are places for that. But truthfully, there's a need for you and I to understand that credibility starts with you. You must believe that you are a credible person and that God has called you. So credibility begins with you and your belief in yourself. Leadership continues only if other people believe in you too. So what's happened is this. You can believe you're called. You can believe that you're credible. But if you yourself don't believe that, you have no platform. But even after you believe that, if other people don't believe in you, it don't matter what you do. You know, the old saying that John Maxwell has, if you call yourself a leader, but you're walking by yourself, you're only going for a walk. You know, and there are a lot of people going for a walk. And it's time to recognize that if God's called you, God's called you. And if you're a leader, it's important that you find your worth at the table. You must believe you belong there. When you believe that, it literally transforms how you see the table. Now, how many of you grew up in a home where they had for Thanksgiving a kids' table? I was always delegated to the children's table. I hated the children's table. Go to the kids' table. There's not enough room at the adult table. Go to the kids' table. I remember the first year when my parents actually allowed me to come to the adult table and eat Thanksgiving. It felt so good. I buckled up to that. See, I believed I belonged at that table many years before. But when I finally got up to that table, man, I saw Thanksgiving totally different. It was a greater meal than it had ever been before because I didn't have to eat at the little kids' table with my knees about the place of my elbows. You know, it's a place when you see yourself, it brings credibility to your own heart. You belong at the table. So turn to someone and say, you belong at the table. You belong at the table. When you believe you belong at the table, everything changes. There are a lot of pastors or a lot of leaders, a lot of marketplace ministers who have low self-esteem. Low self-esteem brings us in a bad position because you're always questioning whether you belong at the table. Now, what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is how you view yourself. It's how you picture yourself and how you value yourself. And there are a lot of folks that struggle. In fact, one of the things, I've said this before, but when I traveled as an evangelist, one of the things that I found was most pastors had very low self-esteem. What I also found was that the pastors who had very small churches had extremely small self-esteem. And the reason for that is because they would never allow control to go beyond themselves. They had to control everything because that gave them the worth that they had. Listen, your worth and my worth has nothing to do with what we do. Yeah. Our worth belongs in who we are. And that's very important. When we don't have a good self-esteem, then our credibility to ourselves is diminished. And when we are not credible to ourselves, then we do not truly believe we belong at the table. And if we don't believe we belong at the table, the people that we're leading will lose confidence in us. We must have confidence so they can have confidence. Now, some people have called me arrogant. Some people have called me prideful. Some people have called me a lot of different things. But I will tell you what I am. I am confident in who I am. I know what God has called me to do. And you know what? I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. If my wife was here, she would very clearly tell you. But I know I'm credible to myself. I had to come to that myself. No one could usher me there. I had to come to that agreement with God that He called me, that I'm appointed to this, that this is where I'm supposed to be in life, and I am now credible before Him first, amen? And then I can be credible to other people. You must also have what's called a good God esteem. What's a God esteem? Exactly, what God thinks of you. So you've got to see how you believe about yourself, but also how God sees you. Now, if you see how God sees you and then you believe what God says, how many believe what God says? Yeah. Well, not everyone does. Or they'd have good self-esteem. Yeah. You know, we have better esteem when we have God esteem. So it's important. Leadership begins with you and I. Credibility begins with you and I and how we believe in ourselves. Now, we must also have correct education. Listen, you can write as many books as you want. You can be published. You can write blogs. You can write articles. You could be in the newspaper. Man, you can have all of that stuff. But without credibility, all of that might push you forward, but it will never hold you there. One of the things that I believe is one of the most important principles of leadership is called sustainability. We must be able to sustain. You cannot sustain, your gifts will not sustain you. Your abilities will not sustain you. What sustains you is your credibility. When you are credible, it positions you in yourself and positions you with others so you can sustain where you are and where you need to be. So this is where you and I must learn how to be sustainable, and all of your gifts in the world will not make you sustainable. Your personality will not make you sustainable. None of that makes you sustainable. Only your true, valid credibility before God and yourself then put you in a position of being credible. Credibility is the foundation of leadership. Credibility creates the desire for people willingly to follow you. You ever followed someone because you had to? Yeah. They were an intimidator? I mean, you had a job, you liked your job, but your boss was not nice. I tried to do as best as I could. They were a pusher, they were a driver, but not in a good sense, they're in a negative sense. And you didn't follow them because you wanted to. You followed them because you couldn't not get your paycheck so you could pay your bills. How long was it when somebody offered you another position that you took it? Yeah, it doesn't take long. And the reason it doesn't take long is because true leadership and credibility creates the opportunity for people to willingly, desirably want to follow you. And that is, there's no greater compliment than someone following you willingly. It's like this. If you've ever met somebody, and my wife was telling me about this boy that she dated in high school. She called it mercy dating. I said, what? She said a mercy date. She said this kid came up and asked her almost every day, will you go on a date with me? Will you go on a date with me? Will you go out with me? Will you go out with me? She said, and he just did it for so long. I finally felt sorry for him. And I said, yes. And I said, Rhonda, that's just sick. That's just really sick. So she said, I dated him only for a week, she said, because honestly, she wasn't willingly dating him. It's like trying to make somebody love you. You can't make somebody love you. They either willingly love you or don't willingly love you. As a leader, if you're going to be a sustainable, credible leader, people have to willingly want to follow you, not you demanding them following you. You know, if you've ever read, and Dan Flatt's in the room, Dan, I love reading Marge's statements about her boss. Dan, you are an incredible leader. Dan, it's publicized. It's right on Facebook. And she just brags about her leader. But what that shows is she's willingly following her credible leader. There's no greater compliment. No greater compliment. What is credibility? The quality of being trusted. Everything deals with a relationship, doesn't it? What's the main foundation of every marriage? Trust. If you don't have trust in your relationship, what happens? It crumbles. We were just talking, I had just come into a situation where I was having a communication with another leader, and the leader said to me, they said, this woman, her husband was very, very successful. This woman literally checks her husband's phone every night when he goes to the bathroom. I want you to know that marriage probably is not going to last really a long time. Why is that? He's not credible. He's not credible to his own wife. She doesn't trust him. Well, the problem with that is that lasts for a period of time, but after a while, it gets old. After a while, when you got to constantly question whether somebody's telling the truth, whether somebody is honorable or dishonorable, whether somebody is credible or discredible, you know, after a while, it gets really old. And then you get sick and tired of walking on eggshells. You get sick and tired of always having to wonder whether they're telling you the truth or not. And so you're not going to willingly follow them. That means you're automatically looking for a place to escape. So being credible is the ultimate foundation for truly being a great leader. And as spiritual leaders, come on now, whether you're, like I said, whether you're a marketplace minister or a pastor, you're a man and woman of God. You're supposed to tell the truth.
Yes, amen.
Amen. It's awful quiet in here, isn't it? As a man and woman of God, whether you're a marketplace minister or pastor or leader, you're supposed to be credible.
Amen.
Okay, let's try this one more time. As a marketplace minister, as a pastor, as a leader, you're supposed to be honest and tell the truth.
Amen.
You're supposed to be credible.
Amen. Yes.
People are supposed to be able to trust you.
Amen.
Amen.
I heard nothing online. I want to hear at least one amen online. There you go. Type it right into the chat section. It's important. We must be credible. This is the foundation. People buy you before they buy the vision. Only credible leaders can earn commitment. And only commitment builds and regenerates great organizations and communities. So ultimately, if you and I are not going to live within this one main principle of being credible, the word integrity plays a lot in that. Integrity is not who you are only in public, but who you are in private. Ooh, you're quiet today. You know, this is important. I love what Miles Monroe said. He said, "What is that one thing you do privately that will destroy you publicly?" That immediately attacks your integrity. What do you do privately that will destroy you publicly? Because the greater leader you become more public. Well, I just want my privacy. Listen, if you're going to be a great leader, privacy is no longer your option. You've given up privacy. When my wife and I did the television, the one thing that we realized, our goal was simply, let's reach more people for Jesus. Let's get the gospel into their homes. It's amazing how many people watch that telecast every single week. We just heard about someone again today who I remember his name. I've met him a few times at Olive Garden, met him a few times. But honestly, I wouldn't have recognized if they didn't describe him. But you know what? He watches the telecast every single week. But you know what happened the moment we started doing that, being more of a public leader? I can't fight with my wife in public. I can't grab her rear end when she's walking down the road any longer. I do that anyways, but yeah, let's move on. I shouldn't do that in public. I'm not allowed to wear whatever kind of clothes I want anymore. Listen, I remember the very first time we were sitting at Cracker Barrel and all like 3 or 4 tables, you know, they didn't know, they weren't collaborating, but they're looking at us and you can see they're talking about us. I lost freedom. I lost the liberty that I had, and my integrity and my visibility now put me in a position where I have to remain credible, or else guess what happens? I have no placement in the community. The larger leader you become, the more freedom you give up. The more credible you must be. The more trust is demanded. You know, that's why we have nothing to do with the finances in this church. The monies are brought in. They're brought in. The security, I think 2 of them have to sign, or 3 of them have to sign to put it in the safe. The next morning, 3 unrelated people go up and they deal with the finances. They count the monies. Comes downstairs. My wife does write the bills out, but besides that, she doesn't touch money. She doesn't see who gives. Shouldn't see any of that faction, just end amounts. And here we have, I've been accused of touching money, and it's very simple. I'm not even close to that. I have nothing to do. It raises your credibility. People can trust you, and trust is imperative. So I'll read that one quote again. Only credible leaders earn commitment. Only commitment builds and regenerates great organizations and communities. So the ministries, the businesses, everything relies upon credibility. Can you actually be trusted? Now, I thought this next part was really cool because, and I'd encourage you to purchase this book. It's called, and you can see that at the top, the foundation of it. It's called The Truth About Leadership by Kuza, and just a phenomenal book. I love reading his material. He and Goldsmith are close friends, and they both write phenomenal books on leadership. Because it's about relationship, there are certain expectations that every follower has of you. Now, they studied this for 30 years. So for 30 years, they've sat down and they've studied what people's expectations are of their leaders. And I thought it was absolutely amazing. The expectations that our leader has of this. Number one, you must have a clear vision. Number two, strategies that reach the vision. Number three, skills to accomplish the vision. So you have to have vision. You have to have strategies. You have to have skills. But you can have all of those, but without number four, no one's following you far. And that is the credibility to trust the leader. Has anybody ever questioned your integrity before? Now, listen, I'll tell you something honestly. You can accuse me of almost anything, but the moment you touch my integrity, my hair goes up. Well, why is that? That's all I have. My dad taught me when I was a kid. When you shake your hand, your word's your bond. That's what it was in the old days. You didn't need these big, long contracts. You needed a handshake. If you got a handshake, that was as good as the man's life. Your word is your bond. We've got to get back to that. We've got to get back to where if we say something, we do something. That we are credible enough. Now watch, when somebody has ever attacked my integrity, that, like I said, that's when my hair goes up, because I don't care what you question about me, but when you start saying that I'm untrustworthy, you're telling me I'm no longer, number one, a man of God, and number two, I am no longer somebody worth following. In that moment, you have lost the entirety of your life. I remember talking to this young man, and he was a really, there are good liars and bad liars. He was not just a liar, he was a bad liar. And I said to him, one day he came up and he says, I really want to do this. I said, great, man, let's do it. I shook his hand. I said, let's do it together. And I did it on purpose because I wanted to show him something. And he came back and I said, I thought you were going to do this. He goes, oh, well, I don't remember saying that. I said, we shook hands, dude. I said, your word's your bond. I says, no one can trust you. The words out of your mouth, the first thing they do is question whether they're true or false. I says, you have no credibility. You have no posture position. You can never be a leader, because without integrity, without credibility, you will not have followers. I don't care how gifted you are, how talented you are, how big a vision you have, even if you have the strategies to accomplish them. If you are not a credible, honest, genuine person, they're not going to follow you far. I'm not saying they're going to follow you, but when they actually find out how disingenuous you are, they're done. There are people that don't have great skills, but they're genuine. And someone will follow a genuine person far faster than they'll follow somebody who's even gifted and talented. Because you can have all the gifts, but they can't trust that you're going to do what you say you do. Well, then why would they ever believe the vision will ever happen? You can't trust the vision if you can't trust the one with the vision. So this is very important. So this is the study they did. Ready? 30-year study. It's different characteristics, and they did them in percentages. The number one quality, honest. 85% said that you must be honest. Number two, forward thinking or forward looking, 70%. Inspiring, 69%. Competent, 64%. Now, I want you to see the ones under these four. Intelligence, 42%. Broad-minded, 40%. Dependable, 37%. Supportive, 36%. Fair-minded, 35%. Straightforward, 31%. Determined, 28%. Cooperative, 26%. Ambitious, 26%. Courageous, you would think that'd be one of the top ones, 21%. Caring, you know, honestly, that is not that's only 20%. 20%. Loyal, 18%. Imaginative, 18%. Mature, 16%. Self-controlled, 11%. Independent, 6%. This is 30-year study now. There are only 4 that are over 60%. Now, I want to remind you, we're not talking over 5 years. We're not talking over one economic viewpoint. We're talking over a 30-year span of good, bad, and the ugly. Only 4 are over 60%. What are they? Honesty, forward thinking, inspiring, and competent. People expect, what's the word expect mean? What's the word expect mean? Boy, what's that?
You assume it's going to happen.
You assume it's going to happen. Another one, expect.
Looking forward.
What's that?
Looking forward.
Looking forward. Another one? It's a demand. Another one? What's the word expect? Trust.
Yeah.
All of these are true definitions. These are criteria that are expected. These 4 are highly expected, are the 4 top expected criteria for any leader in any type of job, in any type of position. These 4 are the top over 30 years. People expect their leaders to live up to these 4 criteria. Number 1, honesty. People need to believe that your character and integrity are solid. They need to believe that you are worthy of their trust. That's big, by the way. You know, we live in a world today where that's not how all these young people we're dealing with that we bust in. It has nothing to do with worthy. It has to do with you just trust me or you do what I want you to do. But you know, there is a worthy. Jesus says that we must walk worthy of our calling. What's worthy mean? Upright, worthy. Deserving. Credible. We must walk worthy. Listen, nobody is obligated to serve us. Now, I don't care if you're paying them. There are so many jobs. There are jobs. Who was I just talking to the other day? I was talking to Joe. And Joe was telling me, man, there are jobs all over the place. There's money to be made. Why do people work for you? Why are people following you? Why are people in your company? You know what I learned a long time ago? People are not motivated by money. They might start off being motivated by money, but the more money you pay them, it doesn't give a better performance. People are not obligated by money. They want to believe in something. They want to believe in someone. They want to be part of something bigger than they are. They want to see that their life even though it might be working in a position that nobody else would even want. They want to see that their position in their mind, in their own credibility, is magnified and making a difference. Everybody wants that. There's not one person on this planet that doesn't desire that. So here we are. We have people that, if they're not honest, they can't understand why people aren't following them. You know, as leaders, man, if you say it, do it. It doesn't matter whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable. If you said you're going to do it, you do it. And if you're not honest, at least get up and apologize. Make it right. You know, I found that people would rather have you apologize. They respect your apology. You know, our pride says, I'm not apologizing. Well, you do know that pride comes before the fall. Sometimes you got to get up and you just got to simply say, you know what? I messed up. And you think that that's going to diminish your integrity? No. You think that's going to diminish your credibility? No. Actually, what it does is it shows that you're human and that you make mistakes and that people are seeing you as a genuine individual and they're willing to follow you to the nth degree. That is one of the biggest things, is getting someone to follow you even though it's uncomfortable. I was just talking to our staff this morning, and I've been learning a lot. As you know, and I've said a few weeks ago that my coach is Frank Damasio. And Frank Damasio said that you're a great trainer of leaders, Pastor Spencer, but you do not train church growers. It's like, ouch. So I've been diligently studying and looking at how to grow churches in a greater manner. And as I'm studying, you know what I find out is that there's what's called the medium-sized church. It goes from 300 to 750. And the medium-sized churches, which we're at the top end of, the medium-sized churches, what's amazing is they never stay medium. They're either pushing forward to become a mega church or they're diminishing back to be small churches. 70% of all churches diminish down to be small churches again. And so I've made a determination. We're not going backwards. We're not stopping the march for souls. We're not stopping filling God's house. We're not stopping emptying out hell. We're going to do everything we can to fill God's house more than once, more than twice. I believe we can fill it 4 times. Can I hear an amen? I believe we can actually do more than that as we build the next building, and God's going to do great and mighty things because in these last days, it's going to be a phenomenal harvest. But guess what? I said to my team today, I said, listen, we have got to go higher. That doesn't only mean me, that means we. So I'm going to be asking more of you. So I said that to him also a few weeks ago. And so on, I believe it was Thursday, I sent everybody a note and said, we have a prayer meeting at 7:15 on Sunday morning. There was a little demand, but I really wanted to see who was going to respond. Because it showed me whether or not they actually believe in what I'm doing. And it's important that we recognize that here we are. Listen, people will follow you if they think you're credible. They'll not just follow you, they'll give extra. They'll give extra. You can demand somebody give extra, and they might do it once or twice. But after that, if they don't believe you're credible, they don't really love you and your vision, they're not staying. People give more because they actually believe in you. People give more because they find you credible. People give more because they trust you and they believe that the vision that you have in your heart, whether it be marketplace or in ministry, that you are the man or woman that God has placed there. They believe in where you're going. They believe in what you're doing. They trust you, and they're going to be willing to follow you beyond the normal status of requirement. The people that won't follow you beyond the required dosage are people that don't believe in you. They're people that will just tolerate you. When they actually believe in you, you'll see a switch because they're going to be willing to follow you beyond what you have required of them, even with their job title. It's a shift that happens in their own heart. Honesty. Honesty is not just that others can trust you, but you can be honest with yourself. And boy, that's one of the hardest things, right? Being honest with ourselves. And Pastor Obi asked me a question. He said, with the coach that's going on, what was the hardest thing he's asked you to do? And really, it's all inward looking. The hard part about having a coach is a consultant tells you what you have to change. A coach tells you to change. And man, I tell you, Brother Damasio, he addresses some of the things that are uncomfortable. My own philosophies of ministry. Why I do what I do. Is it accomplishing or not accomplishing? Is it using God's money wisely, or am I throwing God's money away? And I had to sit down, and I was actually telling the team this morning. I said, his tabernacle does three things. We love God, we save souls, and we develop leaders. And I said, I've had to sit down and literally harness myself and say, every single ministry that we do here, I titled it under which one of those. Are we actually doing what we're saying? And I had to straight up be honest with myself. And we're not missing total, but we're missing, to be able to take us to the next level, a segment in the developing of leaders. And so we're going to be working on a whole new level of developing leaders so we can have another generation that when they come up, now they're going to be able to take it to the next leg. But if you're not honest with yourself, man, no one ever else is going to take you honest. You've got to be clear with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself. Number two is forward thinking. You must have the clarity of direction for yourself and the vision that you are leading. Jesus said it best, Matthew chapter 15:14. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, they both fall into the ditch. One of the main criteria is they've got to know that you know where you're going. Now, if you're a great leader, one of the things that you find is that you start breaching places you've never been before. We call them plateaus, and plateaus have always been seen as a negative. They're not a negative. It means you climb to another place, and now you've got to ground out and figure out where you are, and then go to the next level. But the fact is this: is that there are times, even as leaders, you're going places you've never been before, but you can't allow that to be seen by even your people. The moment you don't know where you're going, you've immediately taken all of the people that are following you and you put them into confusion. Because they've got to believe that you know what you're doing. Now, I'm not saying be disingenuous, but I'm saying be wise in what you reveal. Remember, Joseph revealed too much too early. Joseph put himself in a heap of trouble. Too much too early. And there are times you just don't know what you're going to do. So that's when you spend that extra time with the Lord. Those seasons where you pray and you fast to get the word of the Lord. And then you have your breakthrough. And then you have your resistance. And you bind the devil because he's nothing more than a roaring lion. Seek whom he may devour, but he has no teeth. Amen? Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Then you go back into prayer. But here we have, you must be a forward thinker. You must know where you're going. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have clarity for the vision, then the people they'll start getting confused themselves. Well, no one knows. But ultimately, you know, and they will figure it out. Especially if you're trying to gather people that are going to propel you. Now, there are many leaders that are not forward thinkers, but they have followers. And how is that? And the reason is simply because they always find the simple-minded. Now, I don't mean to be talking down to individuals, but there are people that are simple-minded. What do we mean by simple-minded? I'm not saying mentally handicapped. I'm saying they choose not to think themselves. I knew this pastor. He gathered only weak-minded people. Now, of course, you can't gather many of them. He had about 25 to 30. Whatever he said, they jumped. Whatever he said, they did. But the moment they started thinking and would convey their thoughts to him, he would make sure they'd be driven out of the church. Forward thinkers are not afraid of people questioning where you're going. Just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're disloyal. Forward thinkers are confident in the direction that they have received the download from the King of Kings, whether it be marketplace ministry or ministry in and of itself. You know where you're going, so it doesn't bother you that people question you, so that what happens is your followers start to wonder, where are we going? You can say, here we're going. We're going this way. We're going this way. And in your head, you're going, I'm not sure when we hit that road what's going to exactly happen, but I know we're going this way. You've got to be a forward thinker. Blind people. You can't be blind. Their hopes and their dreams are wrapped up in your vision. That's big. You know, that's why I always say the church you go to determines whether or not you will fulfill your destiny. That is absolutely the truth. And every single marketplace minister in this room, the people that are employed by you believe that the purpose of their life will be fulfilled within your organization, or they wouldn't be part of your organization. So as you and I are forward thinkers, then we will find that we can push them in their vision, push them in their purpose, and be able to see them accelerate. Number 3, they're inspiring. The 4 big ones: honesty, forward thinking, inspiring, genuinely excited, and have great enthusiasm. Now, we're all different types of people. I get told often you shouldn't drink as much coffee as you do. I honestly don't drink a lot of coffee. I'm just excited about life. I love getting up in the morning, and I love life. My wife says, why do you have to be so happy in the morning? I don't know. I just love, I love being alive. I love that I can wake up. Aren't you glad you can wake up? You know, I have some, you know, I remember in the old days, you know, I was listening to a preacher, and she said, you know, when you've reached 50 years old, when you have aches and pains, but after you walk about 5 minutes, they're gone. She says, then you know you're maturing a little bit. You know, you work out the kinks. Honestly, I don't care if I have a kink. I love getting up in the morning. I love getting out of bed, going upstairs, hitting that button that says brew the coffee, walking out to my man cave and saying, oh, Alexa, play Juanita Bynum. All of a sudden, Juanita Bynum comes on with some good worship stuff. And I go out and get my coffee, get Rhonda's coffee, bring it down to her, bring it to bed, down to her bed. And she's reading the word and praying. And I go up into the man cave and put my cup of coffee on my little coaster. And I listen to Juanita Bynum as I walk in circles. But sometimes you need a change. So I walk in the opposite direction sometimes to bring change to my life. And then I just start to worship and love my God. I'm excited because I get to live. There are a lot of people living that are actually dead.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to be dead. I want to be living. And as a leader, your people need to see enthusiasm and excitement. Sunday morning, I was out. Where was I? I was out in the driveway. Everybody coming down the driveway, I went like this. Unless you were late, because I was in church. Waving at you as you're coming down the driveway. Waving at folks as they're leaving. Happy Mother's Day. I loved it. Then I got to the front door, second service, and there's Brother Daly and Brother Palmer at the door. Man, they're just loving people as they're coming in, and excitement. It was so, listen, man, I was so excited. I had so much fun. There was this guy, he was a brand new guest. He parked over in the guest parking lot, in the guest parking spot, and I saw him just standing looking around. So I'm already out there. I'm having a great time. I went over to him and says, hey, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. And he goes, well, thank you. He says, my first time. He said, I know this person. I know this. I said, that's awesome. I said, do you know where to go? And I pointed him in the right direction. And I had to go to church. And I see him sitting there and, during worship. And you could see this is not normal to him. And then the preaching of the word, and Pastor Rhonda hit a grand slam on Sunday. It was phenomenal word of God. And then she gave an altar call, and this man went like this. and then she turned, she said, if you raise your hand, I'd like you to come up front. And he went like this. He was looking behind him. And I saw he was uncomfortable. I came down off the pulpit, grabbed him by the arm, and I started taking him over. He goes, I don't know what to do. I said, you just hang on tight, brother. We're going to take good care of you. Brought him over to Mindy. Mindy led him to Jesus, got him a Bible. He said, I'm going to be a rock solid faith. You know what? You want to know what stirs that? People just love seeing you're excited at what you do. When you're excited, they're excited. You're inspiring. There's a passion that just energizes the very room that you walk into. Come on, you've been around those leaders that aren't energized. Man, I tell you, there's nothing worse than being part of that organization because you're not sure if they're going to be committed tomorrow. You know, they hate their own life. And they're supposed to be driving your life. Remember, the people that work for you and the people that go to your church literally have believed that their vision, coupled with your vision, provides God's blessing in their life. And so if you're depressed, you're unhappy, you hate your job, there's no passion in what you do, then why would they have passion for you? Remember, they're following you before they follow your organization. The fourth one, I got to end soon. It's called competency. The ability to get it done. You've been around somebody that all they do is bark orders and do nothing? When it comes time for work, they're never there. They bark the order and they leave. You wonder yourself, could they do this? Do they have the ability? There's a difference between being a boss and being a leader. A boss says, do it. A leader says, let me show you. A boss says, you better do exactly what I tell you to do or you're fired. A leader says, man, if you're not sure how to do it, let me show you how to do this and let's work you through. Let's get you successful. There's a difference. And it is huge for people. Remember, these are the 4 top things in 30 years they believe their leaders must have. You must be able to get it done. In my Bible school, it was really kind of funny because it was a standing joke. They would teach you Bible, and then some of them would try to tell you how to do ministry. And the standing joke was, they've never left the school. They're trying to tell me how to do this, and they've never left the pulpit where they're teaching their class. They've never led a church. They've never had to have faith for a building. They've never accomplished anything in life but standing there and teaching. No, I'm not demeaning the teacher, but don't tell me how to lead if you've never led. Don't tell me how to do it if you've never done it. That's really big for me. One of the things that I enjoy when I'm able to coach pastors is simply saying, I've had somebody say to me, well, you just pastor a big church, you don't understand. Dude, I start with 5 people, don't talk to me. I know what it is like to be in the Holiday Inn and have to carry this stuff up 2 floors and do it for a year and a quarter. I know what it's like to be everything from the song leader, which I cannot sing. And everybody said, amen. I cannot sing. And you know, I had to preach and I had to be the guest reception. I had to be the youth pastor. I had to be this and I had to do it all. I remember that. I remember going and having to do the tearing down of the building in the square. I remember having to do the renovations. I remember, listen, you know, if I'm going to coach you, the one thing that you'll know is that I've been there. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're thinking, and I got it done. And if I can get it done, I can help you get it done. You people got to believe that you know what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect in everything, but you got to be competent. They're not going to follow you if you don't know anything. It's not just your abilities, but competency to use your abilities to bring production. So some people have all the answers, but they don't do anything. You've got to be competent. So what are the 4 things? Let's do it again. Honest.
Honest.
Forward thinking. Inspiring.
What is it?
Inspiring. Inspiring.
What is it?
Competency.
Not that I don't know them, guys. All of these bring this. Again, this is not just off the cuff thought process. 30 years. 30 years of study. Those four things create this. Credibility actually makes you a leader. Saying you're a leader doesn't make you a leader. What makes you a leader is that you have these four things, and people will be willing to follow you. How many people willingly follow you? That's something you need to ask yourself a question. They're doing it because they really believe in you. They believe in the vision that you have. Now, I just want to say, all your employees don't actually believe in you. All the people that are following you don't all believe in you. So an interesting thought would be being able to identify the people within your organization that actually consider you credible, and they're following you beyond even the demanded request. But then identifying those who don't and find where you're lacking. Because you can bring them to the place of seeing you as genuine and credible. Something has happened, something was done, some thought was popped. I love what Pastor Rhonda said on Sunday. The enemy many times will drop a thought in your head, and then you'll ponder it, and it's against the word. And it's not even truth. You'll ponder it, and then the enemy of your soul will stir the emotions, and your emotions will validate a lie and falsity stronger than you would believe truth. So when you look at your four, and then you look at the people on your staff that you're working with that really aren't following you because of them, which one are you missing in their life? When you figure that out, you're able to really make some adjustments. Because if they're on your staff, if you're paying them, if they're supposed to be pushing you, if they're, I love what Samuel Chan says, if they're holding your ladder and they don't consider you credible, the moment trouble comes, they're the first ones out. Then who's holding your ladder? Hopefully. If not, what's happening to your ladder? And remember, you can only go as high on the ladder as the people you have as your ladder holders. So if all of a sudden you're not credible, these aren't powerful in their life, this is not truth for you, and they walk away when trouble comes, your ladder might come tumbling down pretty quick. Isn't it wise as a leader to go through your people and figure out where you are in this? Because then you can shore up what you have. Credibility ties it all together. And without being credible, then you really don't have followers. You just have people hanging out with you. You don't need people hanging out with you. They really won't accomplish things for you. You need people who are willing, because they believe in who you are and what you're called to do, are willing to go the extra mile, the extra work to make it happen. That is one of the main principles of leadership. And so the question you have to ask yourself, as I have to ask myself, am I credible? Am I honest? Am I a forward thinker? Do I really have vision that's from God? Am I inspiring? Do people want to be around? You know you're not an inspiring leader when everyone avoids you. Somebody came to me one time and said, My in-laws are just driving me nuts. What do I do? When I get around them, man, I just want to claw my eyeballs out. I said, it's easy. It's what you do. You box your time with them. So you go knowing that on the back end, you have an appointment. And don't lie. Make an appointment at the back end of that visit. So you have 30 minutes you can spend with them, and then you can leave and still be credible. You do know that if someone's planning that about you, you're probably not an inspiring person. How many people have ever gotten on the phone and you picked it up on accident, and now you're realizing who you're talking to, and you said, "Dear Jesus, why did I ever pick that call up?" That person is not inspiring. Watch your words. If all you spew is your complaints and the problems of your organization, your ministry, or your business, you're not inspiring to anybody. That's why we walk by faith and not by sight. And then competent. You got to be able to do stuff. I think this is a phenomenal teaching. And if we apply this stuff, you know, we've been teaching now for 4 years. You know that, right? It's been actually over 4 years we've been doing this. We have heard so much really solid leadership skills to apply. Can you imagine if we actually apply them? What happens? You have a crossroads in front of you today. You have the ability to take what's being taught and apply it to your leadership skills. Or you can simply say to yourself when you walk out the door, I got a donut, maybe a cup of coffee, and I just wasted an hour. And the difference between one or the other is application. Your day gets busy and you forget all about it. Problem? You've just wasted an hour. Save yourself an hour. You've got to apply it because it changes your life. Questions? Yes.
With the forward thinking, we used to always have we had a phrase that the church of what's happening now in sales. So I think part of being a forward thinker is having the discipline to know what you're not.
Ooh. Say that one more time. To having the discipline, being a forward thinker, having the discipline to understand what you're not.
Right. Because sometimes opportunities come up and it's awful easy to get sucked into.
Ooh, very
losing
good.
Focus. So you want to always drive forward, but you also want to make sure that you're driving forward in the best possible way and in a narrow, focused field.
Excellent. I remember when we got addressed with that here at his tabernacle. Brother Ted came in one time and he said, I want to see all your books and I want to know where you're spending all the church finances and let's evaluate them. He said, any ministry that is not producing fruit and you're putting money into it, you need to cut it off. Oh my goodness. We had 40 some odd ministries, I believe, at that point in time. I think we whittled them down to 20-ish. Just started cutting them. Because you can do a lot of things that won't ever get you where the vision has called you to. And that's called digression. And it takes money, it takes talent, and it takes energy and moves it away from the ability to accomplish the true clear vision. Excellent. Anybody else? Will you apply this is the question. So your homework. I want you to evaluate your leadership team and ask yourself an honest, but remember, honesty is not just they trust you, but you got to be honest with yourself. And be honest with yourself. Are the people that you are employing, are they willingly following you? Do they see you as credible? And if not, where area are you lax in that you need to shore up with them? Now that takes a little extra effort, but I'll tell you, if you have people on your leadership team that don't have you as credible, You're wasting time and money. And the problem with that is they're leaving. When you have to replace somebody on your leadership team, it's not a $1.25 experience. It's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to replace a high-level leader in your organization. My great failure over time was I gave too much time in extracting somebody that did not believe in the credibility of me and the vision. I wasted. I gave them too much grace. There's a time to give grace and there's a time to execute. I've had to learn that one the hard way. When you execute too late, it actually costs you greater. So by doing this, what you're actually doing is you're going to have to make hard decisions. You're going to have to invest in them to bring them to the level of credibility for you. If they're not going to respond, then you need to extract them and replace them and put somebody in that will take you to the higher level. What got you here won't get you there. And not everybody that you have there will be able to take you where you need to go. So that is dependent, not even on their skill sets, but on their belief in you. They'll give extra, learn extra, be trained extra, stretch extra if they believe in you. That's good stuff. Okay? No more questions? Anybody online?
Online has one is, can you talk more about the timeline of grace in a situation like this?
Can we talk about the timeline of grace in a situation like this? Absolutely. When you find immediately disloyalty, disloyalty is a declaration that they not only don't believe in you, but are willing to verbally and actively come against the vision. That's when the execution has to come. There must be an intolerance for disloyalty. But like I said, questioning is not disloyalty. Disloyalty is when they're going behind your back, speaking against you and the vision. At that moment, disloyalty must be extracted. There must be a quick cut. Everyone, especially in churches, we try to make that a slow cut. And there are times to minimize loss, but ultimately, the longer you keep them on there, the more the cancer spreads through the body. And that is the challenge. Now, I'm not sure business-wise if it's the same. Yes, the same in business. Jay, do you find that the same in your business? Yeah. Yep, same in business. Dave, same in yours. Amen. So it's the same cross-culturally. Cross-culturally. Disloyalty is not disagreement. Disloyalty is when they're coming behind you and speaking against you and the vision. Cut has to happen. Every time I've waited longer, I've lost more people. Trying to give grace. Well, maybe one more sermon. Nope. Maybe one more touch of the Holy Ghost. Nope. Maybe a little bit money. Nope. Maybe a little bit more freedom. Nope. Cut them off. You don't do it, the price is greater in the end than in the beginning. But that all comes down to this. They don't find you credible. Anybody else? Yes.
To grow in credibility, if you believe that you really are, but just want to continue to grow in that. I'm assuming it's not, I'm sure it's not the best idea to go and ask everyone on your team, am I each one of these things, like straight out?
No, you don't need to. They'll show you.
Is it a bad idea? Like, I have a guy on my team who I very much trust, who I know follows me very honestly. And I also know if I ask him a straight up answer, he'll give me an answer, not that I'm looking for, but the straight answer. Would someone like that be good to ask? Like, what do you think are some of my strengths or weaknesses in these specific areas?
Yeah, but just be ready. I mean, I wouldn't ask anybody that's under you. That's a parallel question. You never ask somebody that is subservient to you in the aspect of they're serving you or you've hired them or they're under you. You ask somebody who is parallel to you or higher than you. Because that person then now finds you familiar. You've opened up for them to speak into your life, where you're to be speaking into their life. I always ask my eldership and people, I'm talking like Brother Ted, he has no problem telling me anything. You know, Bishop will have no problem telling me anything. My wife, no problem telling me. Anybody else? Great questions. All right. Thank you for being part of the Empowering Pastors training. Thank you all for watching online. Have an awesome day.